Hello, angel buddies. How's it going? I know I just did a live stream last night, but I wanted to see y'all again. So here I am. Let me catch my breath. Just kind of ran in the house. Wife and I were out running errands, and it took a little longer than I thought it would. How's everybody doing in here? Sunny doing? I'll be waiting. Muppet, Ohio fish hippies. Uh, who's Ohio fish hippies? Is that a name in here? Um, let's see here. Ian Atkins, Corzer, sponsored by Dr. Pepper. You know it, brother. Actually, my Dr. Pepper is downstairs right now, so not at the moment. Wish I could get Dr. Pepper where I live. It makes me jealous every time I see him pop a cold pop. Wait, see him pop a cold one. Yeah, I'm pretty lucky, gotta say. Where do you live that you can't get Dr. Pepper? Are you in Europe or something? Asia? I found it in France and I found it in Italy. I found it in Rome. I found it in London. Hey, Alex, I'm going to be shutting my tanks off for the night, so I'll just be listening till I get done. All right? Shutting the lights off. All right, guys. Let's see here. All right, guys. Fake name. What's going on, brother? How's it going up in Canada, my friend? How you doing? How's BC and the case count? I heard you guys are doing better than us. If you got less than a few thousand cases, you're doing better than our state. Muppet 929, hello. Coach Mac, hello. Clint Elizabeth, hello. All right, so we got people filtering in now. Today, I want to do the segment that I do from time to time, which is Fishy News, and that is going to be, you know, fish-related news stories about our hobby that are in the news this week. So we're gonna do that. We can't. It's kind of like Voldemort, the way we have to talk about, uh, what's going on with our health and wellness right now in the world. If I say anything, they demonetize my stream real quick. Corsair, you are in France, huh? Je n'ai pas. Too bad. Um, je voudrais Dr. Pepper. J'adore Dr. Pepper. Um, I miss France. Okay, all right. Back to what's going on. So first of all, I want to make an announcement. I'll mention it again later, but as people are filtering in, the first announcement that I made during live stream yesterday, but I'm going to say it again, is that Aquatic Arts is making a promo. So you guys have been buying stuff, even though supplies are limited right now in all of the fish hobby. Any fish store you go to, they're going to tell you that. If they don't tell you that, they're lying. But because you guys have been buying what they do have and supplying them, which is another part of this announcement. So if you guys are living in the Midwest and you want to help, or in the, I suppose even in the Rust Belt or the South, or anywhere if you want to ship, but they are looking for dedicated breeders who, can promise 50 Corridora Schultzei a month, or 50 angelfish blue ultims, or 100, or whatever it may be, or shrimp, or even plants. And usually, you look at their prices that they're selling them at, you're probably going to be assuming you're going to get paid a third or a fourth of that value. That's kind of the industry standard. However, you're also going to probably be offered trade, money in trade, so a better deal for that. So they are looking for people. If you guys like aquatic arts, if you guys are equipped to start breeding something for them, like different cory species, different high-end guppies, or any nano fish, stuff that's kind of hard to import right now. Plecos, of course, rams, gobies, rainbow fish, whatever it may be that you like breeding, that you could do monthly, as long as you could commit to maybe say 3 months or something like that. If you're set up for that, you've got, you've done this long enough, you can take care of parasites and all that kind of stuff and get them quality critters, then they are definitely interested in working with even more of people in our hobby. They're all people in our hobby that run that company. And so they want to expand. They also are expanding. It's not official yet, but a little birdie told me that they are expanding what they're breeding in house, and that they've always had an awesome crayfish and invertebrate snails and shrimp section, and we don't have. I don't think we have anyone right now in the U.S. other than maybe like Lucas Bretz and Rachel O'Leary that breed, and really I'm going to say like Lucas Bretz, and there's other folks out there who breed high-end stuff, but just breeding cherry shrimp, we don't have many websites or companies breeding shrimp in the U.S. Almost everyone, even Rachel O'Leary now, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Rachel, if you see this, but will order in big shipments of her fish, and then she has a retail license and a reselling license. Whereas we used to in the hobby, even 5 years ago, it was very rare to get anything other than red, maybe some crystals, maybe some tigers, but red neocaradinas was the only thing you could import regularly and be supplied with. And everything else was from the hobby. Now we're seeing all the colors being bred in mass in Indonesia, in Hong Kong, in China. Israel is coming up. And in the news segment I have coming up, there's some news about massive shifts going on in the production of fish foods and live cultures, tissue cultures. All sorts of stuff has been shooken up by recent events in the world that shall not be named, Voldemort effect, as it were. So yeah, let me just take a look real quick here. So the other thing I have to announce is that you know I've been working with Aquatic Arts now for 3 years. I've been buying from them for four, since they started selling online, and five. And I really love the company. I love what they do. They give away a lot to charity, and they're going back not even just because of the Schmovid, but because of the Modelo flu. I can't say the stupid thing, or the video will get not certain. You won't be able to search for it. It'll just be like hidden. So I'm gonna try to avoid saying the thing that we're all locked down from. But basically, because even before all this was going on, they're trying to go back to local. They were buying anybody who bred local cichlids. They're based in Indianapolis. Like I said, get a hold of me or Preston at Aquatic Arts if you want. But if you get a hold of me, I can probably kind of filter you through, ask any preliminary questions you might have. He's filled me in on. But because of how much I love them, because of all that, because you guys rock, because of the codes that we use on this channel, which are linked in the description below, the Aquatic Arts Secret History 10 and Secret History 15, those 10 and 15% off codes, whenever you guys spend money on those, the company actually takes a portion of that, like 4% of the profit, and sets that aside, and that will go into promotional costs, as in what we do next. So same with me, I take that percentage, and we then I help with them. We figure out how we're going to give it back to you guys as a community. So every 6 months we've done a giveaway, and we're going to do another one coming up, I believe in 2 weeks, depending on when their quarantine clears, because another little birdie told me that Aquatic Arts has a bunch of they actually got a shipment from Asia in finally, and they have a bunch of new critters coming out of quarantine within the next 2 to 3 weeks, and that would be a good time to announce a giveaway. So we'll probably be doing, a probably $100 gift, maybe a $2.99 like gift pack worth of shrimp, and like a starter, like 20 shrimp of neocaridina plus Bacter A and choya wood, and who knows, like we'll probably do something like that, or your option of taking the value 200 or 300 or whatever it ends up being. We're gonna try to split it up, so if you guys want, don't say it right now in the comments, but afterwards leave a comment on this video about if you'd prefer more gifts at, like, if we do like 10 or 15 prizes at $50, $25, free shipping, that kind of thing. If you prefer that so that more of the viewers can get things, and you don't need to buy anything to win, but you do get extra draws for every transaction worth $100 that you spend with them. So if you've spent $100 with or any money with them, you get an extra drawing. If you spend 100, you get 2 extra, 3 extra, and you could do a $50 transaction and then a 70. Those are going to be 2 extra drawings. So it's just like the past sweepstakes that we've done with them. But I want to keep it going and give back to you guys. And they're going to be sending me, I'm going to be buying some leopard frog plecos, hopefully. I want to get more of those going. I want to try to breed them. I've got 2 adults right now, and I'm probably going to order 3 juveniles, and I'll have to wait a year or 2, but that's okay. They're really beautiful. So, in any case, I'm making that order, and then they're going to send me also. We're going to pick a theme. We did rice fish last time, so we'll do an unboxing of something, whether it's, tetras or brackish fish or whatever it may be. We're going to do an unboxing on a theme, and then we'll launch the giveaway. I'll probably be giving away prizes with that video, and then the next live streams, and then we'll have some winners, some sort of contest. Also, we'll probably just do some random giveaways, and maybe we'll also hold like a trivia thing or something we usually do to just give away even more prizes. So look forward to that in the next month. Actually, let's see here. Aquarium Fish Nerd. Alex, do you know anything about Snyder's barbs? I saw them in stock at Aquatics Arts. Yeah, they're really cool. They get a little big. I mean, they're not huge, but they plump up, and then they get, I think, like 3 inches long, something like that. And they actually need to have some room to run in the tank. They need to be able to swim. So you probably want a 40 breeder for a good school of them, I would say. I think they recommend maybe a 30 or 40, but I would go with a 40 or bigger, just so that they have room to shoal. They don't really school, but they shoal. They definitely get together and kind of cruise around together. And they get more intense coloring, like you see in their pictures. Those are actually young ones, and they'll get older, the ones that are on their website right now. So I think they're cool fish. I've never personally kept them, but I've had friends who've kept them. Tron, how's it going again? I see you're tuning in again. Thank you, my friend. I don't know what to do with all my albino Corridora hatchlings. I don't know if Sierra Fish and Pets would accept corridors for profit. Ask them. I would say they'll probably almost always. I'm just realizing why am I like cut up on my face? Whatever. I never know. So I just ask them. They usually local stores. If you go in and I mean, it depends if they have a quarantine tank is the other thing. So like Aquarium Co-op has that ability. If they feel like it, they could always take something in because they could quarantine it if they have room. Other stores don't always have quarantine back room tanks, and so sometimes they have to really trust you and know that you're going to sell them a fish that's not going to get other people's fish sick when they take it home. And so if you can assure them of that, everything looks healthy and everything, especially if you shop with them a little bit and they know who you are or they've seen your face, that really helps. I have a whole video on breeding for profit, and so does, Aquarium Co-op, Corey, the owner of Aquarium Co-op. He's got a great series on breeding for profit, quite frankly. So I'd recommend those videos. I've done a few that touch on it too, but he's very thorough in his, and I try to touch on some stuff that he didn't. But they'll probably, at least for albino cories, they buy them at like $1.50 a piece usually. Like, it's very inexpensive, maybe even like 99 cents. Aeneas cories are very easy to breed. And so, even though they're just as hard as Pandacories or Aeneas or Schultzii or Sturbii, those are all pretty easy. Trilineatus, you're going to actually get less because they are bred in mass. They are bred in Florida, and they're also caught in the wild in large quantities. So, yeah. Leopard frogs, plecos, Peclotia plecos. They're not technically a pleco. They're a catfish, but Peclotia or Peclotia. They live, and they're the Compta species is their official Peclotia compta, but they live probably 10 years in good conditions. Now that being said, they are a little fidgety. They can get sick easily. Um, they just do. Plecos, they get a lot of stomach issues and parasites because they eat poo, they eat algae, they eat other food. They'll eat anything that is on the ground that they just put in their mouth and they roll it around, and they'll eat rocks to try to like grind up the food in their stomach, and their stomachs can get bloated. And then also they have that scale, that armored skin, since they're an armored catfish, most of them. Whereas actually, Peclatia, they don't have big scales on them. They have a very smooth, like shark-like skin on them, and they're more prone to infections and sores, like flukes and things like that. So, I'd say most of them live 5 years just because of those things. Realistically, most live like 6 months, and then there's another die-off period at a year, and another die-off period at 5 years or so if it just wasn't taken the best care of, but it was okay. And then if you keep perfect care of it and it's happy as can be its whole life, they can live like 10 years easily. But they aren't even sexually mature until 2 to 3 years usually. So they're a slower one, and they get fat like a frog as they get older. Let's see if mine's out right now. Just take a look real quick. And then we'll get to the news because I have a whole world of fish related news this week, and some of it's pretty darn entertaining, some of it's fascinating, some of it's not. But you know, why not cover it? So right now, as you guys saw the other day, my lemon pleco, he is doing a very good job as a daddy, guarding the cave. He was facing the other way the other day, but he is hanging out right now, aerating that cave, making sure that no fungi gets in there, that no snails or any other pests get in there and eat his babies. So hopefully I'll have some lemon plecos soon. The female lemon pleco is right in here hiding, and then I've got albino plecos like right here. Longfin, who I just had a clutch of, and that's who I showed you the little fry from downstairs. Now, as for the leopard frog pleco, I don't know where they are. They're in here somewhere. They're probably hiding they like to hide if they're not visible in these leaves here. In the Logonodremy boldi or the Prince Kleiner sword. They like these big broad leaves. Yep. Oh, he just went away. But he was down in there, so he's just hiding. They're more nocturnal fish. But yeah, they can have a good lifespan. And they're a beautiful fish to look at. And they're kind of quirky. They'll come out at night and they'll be on the glass. And mine are friendly at night. They hate people in the day. But at night, they'll come to the glass if they think I'm bringing bloodworms and stuff. So it's kind of interesting. All right, guys. So, Chad C says, I have Seattle water hoping to avoid RO. Yeah, you can for most intents and purposes. I have always, so the main thing will get you, let me just put it this way. So let's say that you're using Seattle water and you fill up your tank and it evaporates. Like you don't have a lid, like I don't have a lid on this tank right now. If you top it off with Seattle water, even at 50% or 50 TDS, for instance, then that number is going to get higher each time if you're topping it off with more tap water, because that old TDS, whatever it was, let's say it's 2 TDS averaged out for the whole tank, or 5 or whatever. So now you're going to have, instead of having 50 out of the tap, so say it was 50 out of the tap, and half the tank evaporates over 3 months. So you've got 25 uh, parts per million of TDS that's still in the water column. It didn't go up into the air. Actually, some of it does, but let's just say it doesn't. And so then you're at 75 now if you top it off with more tap water, because you just added it back in plus the difference. Now, if you added RO water, or completely changed out the water, then you would be getting you'd stay at 50, you know. If you changed out all with RO water, you get lower numbers over time. But I recommend, if you're doing it for shrimp or something like that, especially if you just got low tap TDS out of the gates, you can use tap water if it's under 50 usually. 30's an even safer spot. Mine's 28 out of the tap in Seattle usually. By the end of summer, it hops up to 50 or so. The highest I've ever seen it was 80. So you do want to check it, because that's a big change for like crystal or bee shrimp, you know, Thai bee shrimp and things like that. It's also a big shock for certain plants. Some plants like really hard water, some like really soft. You know, so you want to keep an eye on that somewhat. And then also, usually you'll know, depending on what part of the world you're in, and if you have mountains nearby, when your reservoirs where your city gets its water from, or if you're on a well, that's going to be a different system that probably is stable year round somewhat. But if you're on city water and it comes from a reservoir, you're probably going to get higher TDS numbers as that snow melt is gone and they start getting to the bottom of the lake reservoir, and the silt and stuff starts getting washed away too, and there's not full the pipes aren't full of energy flowing and just kind of keeping an average of TDS. You know, there's like a trickle in half the pipe, and so humidity can build up, and calcification and things like that can start to cake up. And then when a big rain comes, it can wash out that pipe of all the stuff that the hard water had hardened on. You can keep most things that need RO water in any tap water that stays around 50. But what I do is, if I have a 5 gallon or a 10 gallon tank, I'll just go to Walgreens or some, you know, pharmacy, drugstore, corner store. You could even go to like one of those water truck places where you get the water cooler tanks that are, you know, 10 gallons or 5 gallons, and get a jug of distilled or RO water. You know, that's what I would do. And then you just top your little tanks off with that. You can fill them up with that if you want to start, or you can just start with water out of your kitchen. You're going to be remineralizing though if you're using RO water, so you want to do that. Wow, this gourami is getting beat up by a reticulated algae eater. I've never seen the reticulated algae eater pick on anyone, and he's alone. He doesn't even have like a mate or anything. Very interesting. Sorry guys, I get distracted when I see things I haven't seen before in my tank. So yeah, yeah, the dissolve Corsair says the dissolved solids stay in the water; they don't evaporate. That's true for most things, but I mean, there's other factors like they get stuck up here, and then there's also factors like if you have intense evaporation and humidity, you will see that some calcium, for instance, or salts actually stay in the water as it evaporates. You'll see stalactites and stalagmites forming in rooms where it's not coming from the wall leaking water. It's just coming from the room being humid for 20 years in a basement. How do you keep from losing KH when you add RO water? I have had it drop to 0 during water changes to lower TDS. What can you do? Well, KH is essentially, think of K, think of the sound K for calcium. So calcium and carbonate. So general hardness is going to be carbon, calcium carbonate, calcium bicarbonate, all the various compounds in that kind of realm. But KH is more so the conductivity of the water, and ions in the fish and living things is what it tends to affect. And so calcium, potassium, and carbon are really the things you're thinking of. So some crushed coral will help, and you can just get KH additives. That's really the easiest way to go these days. But I have videos talking about how you can add um, crushed eggs that have been boiled, eggshells, into your hang off the back filter or into your canister filter, things like that. So yeah. Jackson Tax, how's it going, ma'am? How are you doing this evening, my dear? Chad C. So everybody seems to be saying that they've been hanging out and doing more, basically, during this whole, what do you call it? I think I can say illness. I think I can say virus. That's okay. I just can't say which one. But yeah, so we'll call it Voldemort. If for those of you Harry Potter fans, I'm not even a big Harry Potter fan, but I remember that that's the bad guy you can't name. So, um, all right, guys. So let's also, what tank do you guys want to see while we talk about the news? Because I don't have any news clips to show you, but I have some fun stories to tell you in the wide world of fish. Uh, there's some kooky crap that's been going on around here. Does Seachem Equilibrium raise the KH or GH? Offhand, I think it does, but it's a buffer, so it raises the GH and the KH a bit, but I don't remember what all else is in there. So yeah. All right, so people look like they're saying Phoenix rasbora, shrimp. So let's go downstairs. We can see if we can look at a shrimp tank and see how they're doing while we do the news. And I have some news stories. I have some scientific journal articles that are kind of interesting. If I lose you guys, I'll try to restart this. I'll rejoin this stream and I'll try to restart. The internet has been whack, so let me know if it's been going on. Yes, and Equilibrium does raise the TDS a lot. So the GH and KH may not be as drastic, but TDS will change a lot. Chevy Fish, how's it going? How's it going, brother? Okay, so let's take a look at, you know what? I like this tank. Let's start with this. Don't Phoenix rasboras need ridiculously low pH? No. Almost all fish that say they need low pH do not need it. They can acclimate if you do it gradually, and I'm not saying super gradually, but I mean within 2 weeks even, you can gradually move them from really low water. But I almost guarantee you that no distributors are keeping them at like 4 pH. That's where they like to breed. I spawn them down at the 4 to 4.5 area, but they don't need that. Most fish can withstand neutral water, no, regardless of what it says they like in the wild. Almost all fish. The exception are fish that are in very basic water. So the Lake Malawi, Lake Tanganyika, stuff like that. Those fish, be careful. What do I have? Oh, it's a big smudge on my nose. Okay, weird. I thought like, oh gosh, I have like some hideous boil growing, but it's a pen or pencil from when I was writing my notes for tonight. Okay, so you guys don't need to see my ugly mug. We got 53 people in here now. I'll say it one more time. Aquatic Arts is looking for breeders in the Midwest, in the Rust Belt, in any part of the U.S. who can get them fish at a decent price. So if you've got corridors, if you've got plecos, if you've got anything that's under like a foot long, realistically, they have Raphael catfish and things like that now too. But anything that you're breeding, if you can breed it continuously and you're willing to part with it at a price that's about a third or a fourth of what aquaticarts.com sells it for, They'll either give you credit or cash, and they're looking for U.S. sourced fish right now because it's very hard to import fish, especially reliably. So yeah, let's see here. All right. Um, so let's see here. Erythromicrons, since somebody just asked, yes, here they are. Sorry, the glass isn't the clearest on their tank right now. But they're just chilling. They're just zooming around, doing their thing. There's the young ones over there up top. One's a female. You can see she's got a belly full of eggs right now, even though she's a juvenile. And there's my youngest or the littlest runt one of them. And then here's another big female. She's all buried up right now, ready to party. And then the two males were hanging out down here. But they're a little shy. They still are a little shy. Here's the female. She's less shy. That it was just on the other side. But yeah, they're doing good. They're just hanging out. They hang out in the back of the tank. Doesn't matter where I am. Even if I put my hand in the back of the tank, it's not like they come to the front. They hang out back there still. Um, a Chevy fish. What about shipping the fish to Aquatic Arts? Do they pay or do we pay the shipping? You would have to work that out. It probably depends on what fish you have and how bad they want them. To be honest, if you have some sort of crazy rare rice fish or leopard plecos or zebra plecos, something like that, and you're like, I only want $20 a piece, I'm sure they would cover it in a heartbeat. Now, if you have Corridora pandas, they're probably going to sell those for $4.99 a piece or $3.99 a piece or whatever. Probably only going to get $1. It doesn't make sense to ship them, but it would probably just depend on the situation, and it would have to make sense for both folks. Um, Somebody else is asking me, can I talk to you about getting a couple of your longfin green dragons? Unfortunately, actually, they're all spoken for at the moment, but hopefully they'll spawn again soon. I have, where are they all? These are my short fin. Oh, there's one long fin. But all my green dragons, the whole colony, other than two, are moving. My purple-eyed long fins will stay with me, but all the others are moving, and I'm swapping them out for an aquarium and a new twin star light that you guys will see. I want to do more aquascaping in a shallow immersed tank. But these guys, I do have lots of these guys, the long fin snow white plecos, and they're young now. They're maybe an inch and a half, some of them. But I have a bunch of them. They're hanging out all over the place in my tanks. So, yeah. All right, let's get to the news. I'll read a couple more questions and then we'll get to the news because I'll never get to it otherwise. Okay, blue shrimp tank is what we're looking at next. Okay. Oh, and there's catfish in here. Discussion risks and benefit of Prime Excel as CO2. Prime, that's interesting that you asked C Million. We didn't have a big debate on this or anything, but I was just talking about this. So Prime Excel, is, I think you're talking about Seachem Prime, which is one thing, and then Excel. There's Seachem Excel, and then there's Flourish XL by Seachem. And so Flourish XL is the one that kills algae. It has a glutamate in it, and wait, is that what it has in it? Don't trust me on that. Don't believe what I just said. It has a some sort of hydrocarbon in it that basically kills. It's a byproduct of crude oil, and it kills algae. It's all good, C Million. Flourish XL, yeah. So it will kill algae, and people call it liquid carbon because it is a hydrocarbon liquid. Oh, look at how beautiful my scarlet Batis male is. The female's just chilling right there, but the Batis, he is in his full glory. Just something to point out while you guys are watching. the tanks while I'm talking. But yeah, so the Excel does not do anything for your plants in the way that it would help them grow like CO2 does, quite frankly, in my experience. Now, it will kill algae, which then leaves more nutrients for the plants to consume. So, in that regard, if you have a big algae bloom, it will kill it off, and then your plants will pick up the slack and have more nutrients if you were low. But if that's not the case, then what it'll do is melt all your crypts, melt your valsinaria, melt your hairgrass, your eriocalans. It can melt a lot of different plants that are kind of delicate plants. For some reason, it does that. And so I don't necessarily recommend it for anything other than algae control. I don't think it works nearly as well as just adding uh, like carbon into your tank in the form of even just a catappa leaf has a ton of carbon in it and things like that. So as it decomposes, your bacteria will rearrange any organic matter in the tank um, into that. And any sort of aqua soil has quite a bit of carbon, but really there's no beating CO2 or aeration. So you can always aerate your tank more because people forget that our air that we breathe has a bunch of CO2, a bunch of carbon monoxide. It has lots of things. It's predominantly nitrogen and then oxygen, and then there's CO2 and other things in it. So people forget that there's all those things in the air we're breathing. So you can just aerate your tank, and that will actually be a form of light CO2 injection into your tank if you want to think of it that way. Um, but I agree. Daniel, Keeping Fish says better algicide than plant grower, even at its best. Totally. So I agree. Uh, but it will do an okay job at killing blackbeard algae sometimes. So yeah. Chad C, hoping to buy some microfish from you at some point. Well, cool. Yeah. Other people will say that they like Excel or Flourish on its just normal Flourish, not the Excel part. Um, for I don't know, for their fertilizing their tanks. I don't like it. It's not a comprehensive fertilizer by any means, and it's not just a simple carbon compound. So it's not for me. Chad C, thank you so much for the $1.99 super chat. I appreciate it, brother. Okay, so let's get to fish news. Fish news. And we'll say hi to a green dragon pleco as we do so. All right, so fish news, not fish nudes. Sorry to burst your bubble, everybody. Yeah, hydrogen peroxide does smoke blackbeard algae. So I did use some Flourish XL Seachem right here. See all these bubbles on the blackbeard algae on the moss? It is actually helping. I wasn't going to tell y'all because I always tell people don't use it. But I had a bottle of it sitting right there when I cleaned up my area. And when I redid this tank, I said, you know what? I'm going to try it. So I put some of the algae covered moss back in the tank and gave it a shot as directed. I have a feeling it's going to throw everything off and I'm going to be pissed off that I did it. But c'est la vie. We'll see what happens. All right, guys. I'll share it with you now that you know that I've been filming this experiment. I have my own ways that involve hydrogen peroxide and, algae eaters, specifically reticulated algae eaters and a mono shrimp, or a Malawa shrimp. However, I wanted to try it out one last time. Also, check this out so you guys know what to look for while we're talking about fish news. But look at all the baby anglefish. So I'm convinced that they were called anglefish and that somebody effed up the translation. But look at this. The parents stuck their heads to each other. There's like a chain of them stuck to each other. Very funny to me. But they're guarding that part of the tank. So yeah, I don't know. Funny to me. Okay, let's get on with the news. The news. All right, so first of all, in the news, Monterey Bay Aquarium is forced to delay their reopening as well as Long Island Aquarium and Cleveland's Aquarium were scheduled to reopen, and they are going for it still. But I don't know. They said they'll have to see. Both are on the edge of going back a phase in the lovely phase schedule. Fish also in a recent study from it was published in the Scientific American in the August issue, so it's a sneak peek, by researchers Dana M. Howley and Julia C. Buck. They have figured out that fish use social distancing to avoid communicable diseases and parasites, which I think is interesting. Some people point to it, so then that got me looking, and I found some other studies. But basically, shellies are one of the fish that do so. So apparently they get a fungus on them, and oftentimes they will hop into different shells, and they stay very isolated. And that is to avoid this very predominant fungus because they live in one lake altogether. So it's kind of interesting. So yeah, another species that they studied was a bunch of different killifish. So killifish, including the clown killie and austral killie, a lot of the killifish that you find, I mean, they kind of live alone in puddles anyways, and they lay eggs in mud or on land, and so they have a very diverse way of surviving. But some researchers are now citing that because of a specific weakness in their genome compared to other fish that are last related to them, like some of the rice fish and the blue-eyed Pacific pseudomagills, things like that, that are kind of related to killifish. They're actually saying that a lot of the true killifish are missing a part of their DNA that protects them from some of that, and so they have found by genetic mapping that they think that the evolution of them living in puddles that dry up, like why wouldn't they choose to go back to the stream like crebensis do, or other fish that live in Central Africa or in the Australian desert, pupfish too. Pupfish will hide in the mud. They'll jump from little puddle to little puddle. And they think it could be, it's a hypothesis anyways, that it could be social distancing. Now, I also want to point out that my personal opinion is that there could be some projection since everybody is thinking about all of this stuff right now. But apparently they started the paper 2 years ago as a master's thesis study overseen by Julia C. Buck. So we'll see what comes of that later. The other big news in effects of this whole schmovid thing is the fish food market. Their whole stock trading portfolio remarks, all the whatever, all the stuff about the futures of fish food trading and fish products was published recently, and that includes companies like Dennerley, Tetra, UPEC, Canadian Aquatic Feed, Copen, Sakari, Ocean Star, ADA, Sarah, Aquion, all those brands. So there is a new study out. You have to pay to look at it. It's for big old companies and stock traders, but it is basically saying that the old forecast, which was drawn up in 2018, which was supposed to be good through 2024, is no good because of what has happened with the global health crisis. So they're saying that the trends are going to be, one major trend is local companies are going to come in and become subcontracted to fill out brands. So basically, Limnophilia aromatica does not need CO2 at all. It will get more purple and more dense if you have it. If you have hippodroides, Limnophilia hippodroides, then or hippodroites, then yes, you do need CO2 for it to curl. But other than that, no, you don't. You just need good light. All right, so the other thing in that report was saying that live fish food is another huge sector that will be coming um, into America and into Europe. It's huge in Asia already, apparently. I mean, I haven't lived in Asia. I don't know how easy it is, but like black worms and white worms, vinegar eels, things like that, being able to buy those at the store ready to go, that is going to be more and more popular. And so they're saying that that's a huge part of the market that will be more available. Now, I am curious. The part that interests me about all this is that are people going to actually buy live food because of the convenience, and are they going to be spawning harder to fish, like fish keepers in the hobby, or is that not really what's going to play out? And maybe they'll use it to get their culture, and then they'll just say forget about it. Now, the other thing is they could do something like glowfish and say, we don't want you reproducing these, and they could find a way to genetically sort out or make them infertile. So, yeah, um, you just don't, I just don't know. So, Ontron, I already mentioned that Limnophilia aromatica does not need CO2. Ludwigia, there are too many kinds. Some of the minis, some of the super reds definitely benefit from it, but highlight's more important. Hippodroites or Hippodroides of the Limnophilia that curls, that's the only kind that will need it. All right, back to the news. Um, Novice Aquarius, thank you. All right, so another big news story going on right now is that uh, in the Puget Sound area since 2014, 2015, there's a big die off in the shallow waters. This is the area right in the Seattle. So basically, from Vancouver, Canada, down to Olympia, Washington, past Bellingham, Tacoma, Bremerton, Everett, Seattle. So it's a big 300-mile stretch of ocean, saltwater inlet, and there's a major die off. All of our um, starfish are dying, and they're getting their wasting disease, as well as now our sea cucumbers and our sea urchins and our brittle starfish. Everything is dying off, and we're actually seeing this gross mucus layer of ugh, just dead protein basically, and then bacteria blooms in the Puget Sound. So it was said that that was a big problem 2014, 2015, and they couldn't figure out for sure what was doing it. They didn't know. An interesting thing to mention, though, is a lot of activity in industrial parts of the Puget Sound has been knocked down during this period. So there is a paper right now that is assessing. There's one paper in particular out of University of Washington, but there's another one from NOAA that's also taking a look at the effects that human activity has had on it, and if they were doing something or dumping something or runoff wise there was something contributing to it, because there's all sorts of nasty chemicals that they found in the Puget Sound from just years of it being in an area that's full of industrial activity. So it has actually been recovering very slowly, but about a 20% return in the damage we saw caused in the 2014, 15, 16 period. That damage happened and then it kind of plateaued out. There were some more isolated areas in the Puget Sound up by San Juan Islands that were okay, which is farther away from people. So that's where people suspected that something was going on. Maybe, gasoline, maybe some sort of fertilizer or nitrate runoff or phosphorus runoff from farms inland. Whatever it was, whatever it is, we have a lot of data on sampling, but we haven't found the correlation. But it's getting better now that every business was shut down. Hard part's going to be shutting everything down doesn't really help us figure out which was the magic bullet that helped or if it all helped. So, all right. Next up for some more lighthearted fish news. So, we've got an interesting story here. Back to the fish tank. You don't need to see my ugly mug for this story. But we've got one, Daniel Arhimandez, who jumped into a Fort Myers Bass Pro Shop in Lee County and then ran away after swimming a few breaststrokes. He managed to grab a fish, and I guess he hurt the fish because they put it to sleep. Um, and apparently, he caused $3,100 of damage to the fish in the Bass Pro Shop. So he ran away, and the cops couldn't find him right away. So a few days later, they found him in a hotel room with a pump shotgun, with a fish, and with 200 shotgun shells, as well as several bottles of Cook's champagne. So classy dude there. Now, speaking of people and Bass Pro Shop, a dude in Missouri did the same thing. He jumped into a Bass Pro Shop outside of Little Rock and apparently got all wet and decided to try to grab a bass or some sort of fish. Um, he said, "I'm going to go viral," and then jumped in. That was the only report I could find on it. He was charged with trespassing. Okay, so lastly, this is just getting ridiculous. I hope it's all over. But let's see here. So, oh, and by the way, so that Armandez guy, he got slipped with trespassing, destruction of property, animal cruelty, damage of $3,100 of fish, and then according to another warrant, he was facing utterance of threats and diving without an operator's license. I feel like that's a joke, but maybe they did throw the book at him in Florida. And he also gave him open container because people smelled alcohol on him and public drunkenness. So they gave him open container when they went for his arrest. So he must have been wandering around with beer earlier in the day. I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay. The next guy, yeah, there's another guy in the last month. So 26-year-old Kevin Weiss. Kevin Wise, as in thoughtful, articulate, old, and full of knowledge. 26-year-old Kevin Wise was arrested swimming in a Bass Pro Shop in Louisiana. He said that he had told people on TikTok that he was going to be viral, and if he got 2,000 thumbs up and likes, he would jump into the Bass Pro Shop aquarium / pool pond. And yeah, so he jumped in and yelled, "I'm going viral," and that TikTok made me do it. Yeah, so I don't know. Is that a trend? He got arrested too. It doesn't say what he got charged with other than trespassing. I take it he didn't like grab any fish or anything. But stop jumping in ponds at Bass Pro Shop. Don't you have anything better to do? I mean, like, they just reopened things. Like, this is why we can't have nice things. Stop it, people. The native fish exhibits actually are a really cool thing at Bass Pro Shop. So, yeah. All right, guys. So, another big story. Guppies mating is like bullfighters. So there's this story coming out of, let's see here. No. The Journal of Nature and Ecology of Evolution. And it is by Robert Williamson, who is a nobody who is, nobody related to me that I know of, even though we got the same last name. It's a common Scottish last name. I'll just say that. But he's studying the guppies. He's studying the guppies, and he is looking at their kin selection. So he did a recent study in Trinidad on how male guppies, a small little tropical fish, how they select mates. And if they're willing to help their brother out when it comes to getting a female. And in fact, if the female is not their mutual sister, brother guppies tend to help one another in competitions. They will dart in front of non-related guppies and block them. However, if the pond is all of males that are brothers and sisters to the guppies of choice to be mated with, the males will block one another, thus cutting down on the incest. Now, the other thing that's crazy about this is that guppies also can hold packets of DNA, spermatophores as they're known, in their gut. The females can, in their ovarian storage compartments. They're not quite ovaries. They're like, they call them ovarian glands, I think, or ducts. Um, but guppies and endlers are able to actually select which male they want to spawn with. So they can keep that in their belly there for years, for up to 3 years, their whole lifespan, and they can assign it proteins, which I've gone over this in another video called how guppies can select, how female guppies can choose sexual preference. So the female guppies actually have a protein in their oviducts, and when they see the male that they mated with, they remember them. Beyond them being able to remember them, they can then assign, okay, that male is all of a sudden swimming badly. He is unhealthy. Honey, what's going on?
You want one?
What is it? Oh. Yeah, yes, please. Sorry, my wife came in. She showed me the back side of a box and was like pointing at me, and I was like, I don't know what it means. All right, guys. So, female guppy, they can choose. So, say she's was real enamored with him. He was the talk of the town. And his tail's the biggest and the orangest. Orange shows that they have a very good supply of beta carotene and also of omega-3 fatty acids. So in the wild, orange is a very desirable trait. They just need a good smear of it. So most endlers have a smear of orange, same with guppies, somewhere on them, because it shows that they're getting their nutrients, their iodine as well. So that's important to the females. So they see that, they see how persistent they are, they see how good their little dance is, they see how much energy they have, and if she decides that he's doing awesome, she will not add a little enzyme to his spermatophore. And so as much as a month after, she can mate with up to 5 other males. So she could mate with this male that's trying to show off for her. So, well, see, he's trying to mate right now. Well, maybe she says, you know what? You successfully mated. It's fish. There's not really consent quite the same way as people. So you successfully mated, but I'm not going to have your kid. So what she does is she attaches enzymes that slow down his spermatophore packet and make it slower to open. So therefore, it lowers the statistical chance that his sperm will make it to her eggs, and that the male she preferred out of all 6, usually there's only 2 or 3 in there. In the study, 6 was the rare anomaly in that study done at UBC up in Canada. It was a years-long study. But it was to try to figure out why wild guppies don't suffer from inbreeding in small ponds cut off from other populations. And it's because the females also can tell if they're related, and it's probably a pheromone thing. But yes, she puts a she can freeze the eggs, so to speak. That's right, and she can store them, and then months later she can say, all right, I like these ones, and she can choose. Usually she'll have like 3 or 4 packets in each section, so she can release like usually 100 to 500 cells from each male that she stores as they get bigger. This is part of the reason why female endlers and guppies are so much bigger. And they have those glands on either side of their body, and they come down and they meet with the gonopodium, actually, anatomically. So you got the big black gonopodial dot, and that's where the female guppies, where the magic happens, how they get to decide who the bachelor is. Here's some more guppies. These are the Lucas Brett's ones. They are the fire and ice, and some Midaka rice fish. Okay, so the Trinidadian guppies, back to the research that just came out this week, though. In fact, during competition, one male will dart in front of another to block the competitor's access to the female. More precisely, their results show that males avoid blocking their brother's access to foreign females. preferring to complete directly only with non-relatives. So male guppies act as each other's wingmen. Really weird, very complex, and they also have a memory of the females whom which they've tried to mate with. If they were unsuccessful or battered by a dominant male in the area, they will usually avoid that section of the pond for the remainder of the mating duration. The researchers also explored the effects of other variables on male decision making in guppies. They found that the males take into account the quality of each female and how many competitors are dancing or courting her. Male guppies choose whether to compete over a female based on these factors, as well as her color, size, and pheromone smells, which they've controlled for by this is rough. So they basically got rid of the Johnson's organ or the nose organs for fish. Lizards have a Johnson's organ where they're always flicking their tongue and tasting it. Fish have a similar organ. It's similar to Johnson's organ in guppies. So they must have done a controlled study where one pond, the male guppies couldn't smell the females. That's rough. But they said that even so, the brothers were able to help each other just by sight. Females were rated particularly high quality were then able to be replicated statistically in a computer, and they could predict which males would end up going for which females. For example, this research shows that male guppies take into account multiple aspects of their social environment and biological traits of their mate while making decisions. I think that's amazing. I think that is freaking amazing, and I just love that. So, sorry, Dr. Pepper intermission. I had to take a sip. So, cool stuff going on there with science. I love guppy studies. If you guys don't know, Medaka ricefish, guppies, and endlers together, as well as danios. Those are the coolest fish to look out for in studies, as well as clownfish, because they're always using them. They have very simple genomes for fish, and then they also just do a lot of really cool things genetically, and they express it so visually that it's easy to do tests on them. Medaka ricefish were the first fish in space, for instance. All right, guys. So next up in fish news of the week. So another great fish YouTuber who I got to give a shout out to, which is Rachel O'Leary. She had an article in Reef to Rainforest Online, aka Amazonas Magazine, and she has an article talking about Thai microcrabs, and they were only discovered in 1991 as a species, but Thai microcrabs have never been bred in any number in captivity. They have a carapace, or a central shell on them of the crab about the size of a pencil eraser's diameter. And she was able to start breeding them this year finally. She had them lay larvae many times, just like an amano shrimp would. A lot of times they'll need salt water for the larvae to swim out to sea into, and then they'll come back into fresh water. But she was able, just using fresh water at a temperature of 74 degrees Fahrenheit, 7.4 pH, that's interesting, 74 degrees and 7.4 pH, and a GH of, general hardness of 8, a KH of 7, and then water changes of 25% twice weekly in a tank with sand and mangrove roots, and a TDS of 180. So Rachel O'Leary, big shout out to the fish pimp herself, as she has crowned herself. You can check out her channel at Miss Jinx or Fish Diva. She's got a lot of different names. She's done a lot for the Nano fish community, and she also does sell fish, but she's just a great wealth of information. Hopefully, her and I have plans. We've planned it like in January originally, and then the world exploded. But her and I have planned to get together and talk, and we want to do an hour-long discussion with y'all. Some of the Madakas are getting pretty big now. An hour-long discussion with y'all about growing and spawning, breeding shrimp, guppies, and other fish, freshwater fish specifically, before the internet. What it was like for folks before the internet, and when you had to use magazines and things as trading hubs, bulletins, and clubs locally, and then and pen pal letters and things like that, and then how that evolved to the early message boards, and then from early message boards how it evolved again to sites like eBay, and then eBay said no more live animals, and so you get sites like Get Gills, and then you start getting big distributors that sell to personal people rather than just wholesale. And so we want to talk about what it's like. I grew up. There was no internet to buy fish when I started keeping fish, but I was a kid, a teenager. So I wasn't really an adult. She's a teeny bit older than me, a few years. But oh wow, we had a whole bunch of baby guppies or baby endlers born this morning. And they're very, very mature for being born literally last night. Wow, I just am seeing them. Wow, they look like fully formed. What is going on? And there are a million of them. Mama was real big. But in any case, yeah, she was real big, and now she's not. So, I congratulations, Mama uh, Guppy. I mean, technically these are supposed to be endlers, but I know they have Guppy in them. If they have snake skin or cobra print in them, they are definitely Guppy. Have Guppy DNA. All right, so rounding off the fish stories, let's take a look at the half beak tank, see how he's doing. See how he's doing. And the Malawa shrimp tank. Here's Mr. Halfbeak, just chilling, doing his thing. He looks so grumpy all the time. He looks like on the Beatles animated show, like they, he looks like, I don't know, the Blue Meanies or something. He just looks like a creature for like Dr. Seuss or something, I don't know. But it's actually his lower jaw that is long, which is weird to me. I'd assume his head and skull would take the impact, but no. His lower jaw has all the protrusion, and he is able to ram things and fight with other males. They lock it around each other, and then they do this like alligator death roll thing when they fight for female competition. So yeah. And then we've got the Malawa shrimp doing their thing. So that's what's going on in here. I just thought I'd let you know that. It's looking a little cloudy. I think the water... Oh, yeah. I think the filter got clogged today. So, yeah. Let's get back to finishing off the news. All right, so this last little short story of the news before we get to the last big medical journal study that came out this week, which is really cool too, that we'll finish off the hour with. But so we've got Altum angelfish. Turns out 80% of Altum angelfish in America are listed as Altum angelfish at local fish stores, including PetSmart and Petco. 80% to 90%, depending on which of the guys you ask. But two ichthyologists went around and just by their own, doing their own study, went to go see in the last year where they could find real Altum angelfish from wild-caught sources or even, tank bred. And only 10% to 20% of them are real that say they are. And they're very hard to identify. You need to count the rays on their fins. Which, if you're at the fish store, they may not let you grab the fish and hold it still while you count its rays. Take a picture, they recommended, and count the rays on their fins. I don't know which fin that is, but I just kind of glanced over the article, I have to be honest. But the moral of the story is, if you want Altum angelfish, uh, you know, they're gonna cost you for one, for real ones, and for two, most of the ones that are listed as Ultims are not. They're actually, a lot of them look like this. This is just a Scalara. There are a lot of hybrid angels, and there are hybrid angels in the wild. However, Ultims are from the Orinoco Delta, which is Venezuela. We don't really trade with Venezuela a whole lot right now because of political reasons and because of all the other stuff that we've been ranting about all night while no one's trading with each other right now. And so just buyer beware on the Ultim Angelfish. Man, that is not good luck. If you wanted to buy them and you only have a 10% chance of getting a real one, and I'm sure that's not out of malice or ill will by anybody in the stores, but they just clearly can't ID properly, and they're hard to ID. And maybe the message of that is, um, uh, maybe the message of that is like. Just buy the Scalara angelfish and forget about it. They left their babies unattended. You're a bad mother. You know that? Look, even the Hongsloi is sneaking up. He could eat all your babies, and you were over there pigging out with dad. That's not Sergio, by the way, for those of you curious. Okay, let's get to the last. Uh, let's get to the last story. Also, Corsair, I don't know any. Oh wait, I do know people who have managed to breed autosyncluses. I should do a video on that because I've thought about doing it. I want to breed the marbled ones, the zebra or marbled autosynclus, striped autosynclus. I really love them, but yeah, I'll try to do a video on that soon. So the last news story of the night, not so much a news story, but more journal stories from science journals. This one is out of Germany. I had to translate this one, but Mexican tetra fish can save humans from heart attacks. Okay, that's the headline. Let's hear the story. So this is translated from a German article. I have subscriptions to a lot of different scientific journals. I have like a few bundles that let me look at many countries' medical or scientific journals just because I'm fascinated by them, or political or economic theory stuff. I don't know. I'm a nerd about it. So, whatever. This one also had an article in Der Spiegel, which is interesting, but it was about the pharmaceutical company that backed the study, so it wasn't really important. But a fish that can repair its heart may hold clues for the future treatments in people. According to a study, Mexican tetrafish found 3 areas of the fish genome that are involved in the ability for Mexican tetras to regenerate their heart tissue. One gene appeared to play a particularly key role in the process, allowing existing cells to go back to their stem cell position in the heart. Researchers hope that their study will one day make it possible to heal heart attack, as well as heart attack scarring and muscle erosion in patients who have had a heart attack. It will not unclog the heart, however, it can rebuild torn arteries. That's very interesting. The cave fish in Mexico, related to the Mexican tetra, once lived in rivers in central and northern Mexico. However, they were washed into caves by floodwaters around 1.5 million years ago, according to chromosomal DNA analysis. And they evolved, losing their sight and color because they lived in perpetual darkness. It was not until scientists from Germany compared these 2 types of tetra, both the Mexican tetra and the blind cavefish Mexican tetra, that researchers found the 2 genes IRRC10A and CAV EOI1LIN as the two genes that were active. They were more active in the river fish following heart injury. Having discovered this, they switched off the IRRC10 gene in a species of fish that also has self heart healing abilities, being the zebra danio. And with this gene no longer working properly, the zebrafish died with stress on the heart. It appears that zebrafish stress out their heart and scar it every every season, every mating season. The zebrafish stress out their heart, and the males rip it by actually doing so much flattering of the females. So I wouldn't be surprised if all these Danios did it rather than just the zebra Danio. But because of that IRRC10 gene, or IRRC1Z if you're in the UK, that gene allows them to repair scarring and tears in the heart. If we could get some likes before I finish off this cast, I would appreciate that. That would be great. But yeah, we got 75 people watching and 36 likes. So I appreciate any of the likes you can throw my way. And I appreciate that super chat, by the way, Chad, too. So thank you. All right, so let's finish this off. So scar tissue stops the heart muscle from contracting properly and reduces the heart's ability to pump blood around the body. Both of the genes that are present in humans also are linked to IRRC10. It is known to be linked to heart conditions known as cardiomyopathy in humans, specifically dilated cardiomyopathy, and it is believed that this same gene using CRISPR technology, which is really awesome. You should check it out if you don't know what CRISPR is. It basically is a coming revolution in genomic engineering that allows people to tinker with genes of things, with the DNA of things at home on their own. Is it going to be the start of Skynet and Jurassic Park? I don't know, maybe. But it is going to allow us to do things like turn on that gene in your heart that is off in humans and on in fish. We did have a shared ancestor, and so I just wanted to say that, there's a chance that this gene being flipped on will help us. If our heart rips, we won't have a heart attack. So that's pretty incredible research. How they noticed when a super rare cave fish from Mexico had a heart injury, I don't know. Someone's paying a lot of attention to him. And then how they knew that Danios had that gene also, I don't know. I guess fish have a lot of regenerative genes. Jellyfish do also. But yes, very hard on the body to mate and be a Danio. Or a guppy. Hard on your self-esteem as a guppy. I mean, and you want brothers. You want a lot of brothers to be your wingman in the guppy world. That's what we learned tonight in that article. Well, I got to get off the internets. But thank you all for watching, for joining. I hope you had fun. If you like this nerdy stuff, you know, let me know. Put a comment at the end. Like this video, share this video, whatever it may be. But I like doing these deep dives into news stories and keeping you guys into what I do for the channel just to keep it together. And how do you do an EKG in the water? I don't know, Muppet. That is a good question. I would assume that the electrical signals are all sorts of haywire. C. Million Alexander, have you read any good popular science books lately you would recommend? I haven't. I actually read more medical journals, more biological, nature, evolution, ecology journals. And there are so many coming out around the world. So yeah. And also W. Marion, thank you very much. I agree with what you just said. They do have a really detailed description. So thank you so much, you guys. Have a wonderful night. Hit that like button on the way out if you can. and I will talk to you later. If you didn't like it, you can hit the dislike button. I can take it. I've got that gene. I have no feelings in my heart, so it's okay. But I gotta have dinner, late dinner with my wifey, and so we are gonna get going. And I will talk to you guys later. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your critters and your plants and the people around you. But like I said, first of all, take care of yourselves, because if you don't do that, you can't do the other things. And I think if all of us did even half of that, our world would be twice as good. So I will talk to you later. Swim on and take care. Good night, fish nerds, fish fam. Much love. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Bye.